After a massive, mysterious explosion, a new civilization was revealed. The story begins with Jake Green, a young man lost in thought, staring out a train window. The train pulled into Denver and Jake retrieved his old car, driving toward his hometown Jericho. On the streets of Jericho, Jake ran into his old friend Stanley, a Navy veteran. Stanley, happy to see him after years, suggested they meet later, but Jake politely declined, saying he was only in town briefly to visit his grandfather's grave. At a local store, Jake awkwardly ran into Emily, a school teacher engaged to a bank employee named Roger. Emily, sensing Jake was hiding something, didn't believe his story about serving in the military. Jake finally arrived home. His mother, Gail, greeted him with unfiltered joy, having not seen him in 5 years. His brother Eric and father, Mayor Johnston, also entered. Eric embraced him, but Johnston gave only a curt nod, the tension between them obvious. The family discussed Jake's inheritance. His grandfather left him money, but Johnston controlled the funds, refusing to release a cent until Jake proved he was living a stable life. Gail suggested visiting the cemetery to ease the tension. At the gravestone, Gail urged Jake to tell his father the truth to get the money, but Jake refused to reveal his secrets. He told his mother he needed to return to San Diego and drove off. Back in Jericho, all radio and news signals suddenly cut out. A terrifying sight appeared in the distance, a massive nuclear blast creating a towering mushroom cloud. Mayor Johnston learned of the catastrophe from his family. Assuming the explosion hit Denver, he ordered the sheriff to gather everyone at the station and went to pick up Eric himself. Meanwhile, Jake, distracted by the mushroom cloud, crashed into another car. Deputy Jimmy kissed his young son goodbye before heading to duty. At the police station, town leaders gathered. Johnston warned officers not to mention an attack or invasion without proof. A distraught woman interrupted, reporting that the school bus carrying her daughter hadn't returned from a field trip. Johnston promised a search would begin immediately. Jake regained consciousness after the crash with an injured leg. The occupants of the other car hadn't survived. Realizing he couldn't rely on vehicles, he started heading back to town on foot. He soon encountered 2 frightened children who led him to the missing school bus, full of kids. The driver had lost control after a deer ran out. One girl was in critical condition, her throat swollen, struggling to breathe. Jake quickly made a small incision in her trachea, saving her life. Meanwhile, Robert Hawkins, a former police officer from St. Louis, offered the sheriff help, but the sheriff declined, fearing Robert would slow them down. Robert advised painting over the city name on the police car to avoid drawing attention from outsiders, but the sheriff dismissed his advice. Out in the desert, the sheriff and his deputy found a prisoner transport bus that appeared empty until a surviving criminal attacked them. Meanwhile, a teenager named Dale played a voicemail from his mom, recorded just seconds before the explosion. At the mayor's house, where people gathered by candlelight, the city now lacked power, Dale played the message. It cut off at the blast, but his mother had called from Atlanta, terrifying the anxious residents. Multiple cities, not just Denver, had been attacked. Panic spread, and Jericho descended into chaos, with people looting stores for supplies. Jake realized the children needed a hospital immediately. He moved the unconscious bus driver aside, took the wheel, and drove the kids into town. Mayor Johnston gave a speech, confirming the explosion in Atlanta but urging unity and calm. He asked people to return home and suggested gathering at City Hall the next day. The school bus returned to Jericho, surrounded by a crowd of impatient residents and anxious parents. Gail and Eric helped the injured Jake from the bus and took him to a doctor. His father praised his heroic act and said his grandfather would be proud. Meanwhile, Emily drove along a deserted road at night, sensing strangeness. She stopped and was horrified to see countless lifeless birds scattered across the road. By morning, Emily ran out of gas and continued on foot. In the city, Jake climbed a tall building and saw a massive cloud advancing toward Jericho. The massive cloud was filled with toxic chemicals and radioactive rain was imminent. Panicked, Jake called his father and the doctors, warning them to find immediate shelter. Jake and the doctor checked the hospital bunker, while Johnston and his team cleared a bunker beneath City Hall. The issue was capacity. The 2 shelters couldn't hold all 5,000 residents, and supplies were limited. The mysterious ex-cop Robert offered advice, suggesting sealing homes with tape and plastic as a last resort. City officials were surprised, but Robert explained he was trained in this at the St. Louis police. Meanwhile, a police car appeared on the highway. Emily ran up to it, reporting dozens of lifeless birds. The officers explained the nuclear blast aftermath and offered her a ride. Emily got in, unaware these were the escaped prisoners disguised in uniforms. Back in Jericho, Gracie, the store owner, found Dale on the floor. A man banged on the door, urgently demanding supplies for the bunkers. Police and firefighters raced through the streets, warning residents they had only 90 minutes to seal all cracks in windows. Families scrambled to protect themselves from the fallout. Eric ran into a bar where stubborn patrons refused to leave. Mary, the bar owner, and Eric's lover, reported their resistance. One man preferred to die playing pool, but Eric warned that death would be long and agonizing. They finally agreed to head to the bunker. In the desert, Emily directed the officers to a ranch for gasoline. In the backseat, she noticed an unusual tattoo on one man's neck, growing uneasy. As the men stepped out to fill up, the deputy sheriff's voice crackled on the radio, warning about an escaped prison bus. Emily's suspicion solidified. The criminals returned, pulled Emily out, and she noticed a red stain on a collar, confirming they weren't cops. While one rattled the house door, another opened the car trunk, revealing the real officers tied up and threatened. A girl named Bonnie emerged from the ranch, ushering Emily and the criminals inside. Bonnie said the gas pump key was with her brother Stanley, due back in an hour. Emily offered to feed the officers and they went to the kitchen. Quietly, Emily used sign language to warn the hard-of-hearing Bonnie about the criminals. At the hospital, Jake and his team rushed to prepare the bunker. Heather, the teacher, helped Jake fix the wiring for ventilation. In the store, Dale met Skylar, the most popular girl who refused to go, preferring to wait for her parents in New York. Feeling for her, Dale took supplies to her mansion. Skylar initially brushed him off but apologized and invited him to ride out the rain together. Despite their efforts, the hospital bunker wasn't ready. Jake panicked. The toxic rain could start any minute. With no alternatives, Jake loaded people into ambulances and buses and sent them toward City Hall. When the convoy arrived, panic erupted. The City Hall bunker was full. Eric agreed to take only the 10 most critical patients. Time running out, Jake took the rest to an old mine, planning to detonate dynamite to seal the entrance against fallout. He called Eric, asking him to dig them out once it was safe. Eric was horrified but knew it was the only way. Robert continued to help the mayor, rigging a homemade radio. He suddenly picked up an SOS signal. Robert recorded the message, his face pale and shaken. He crumpled the paper, pocketed it, and told the others the radio was broken. At the ranch, Emily distracted one criminal by spilling hot coffee on him. While he treated the burn, she slipped a revolver off the wall, apologized, and climbed out a window toward the car. She tried to radio a report about the prisoners, briefly catching Jake's signal before quickly changing frequency. Jake realized a woman was in trouble. He sealed the mine entrance, jumped in his truck, and sped toward the ranch. The criminals grew suspicious due to Emily's long absence. Suddenly, their radio crackled with Emily's frantic message, exposing them. Bonnie tried to run, but a thug caught her, holding her hostage while his partner sneaked up on Emily, aiming to shoot. At that moment, Jake appeared, knocking the second criminal down. Emily seized her chance and shot the one holding Bonnie. Both women were safe. At City Hall, Gail and Robert found Johnston collapsed on his office floor. They dragged the mayor to the bunker, where he received medical attention. Once stable, Robert headed home. His wife, waiting, demanded answers, convinced he knew something. Robert snapped, ordering her not to ask questions. He couldn't reveal anything. Finally, the rain began. Everyone hunkered down in shelters, praying to survive the night. Shutting himself in a room, Robert pulled out the crumpled paper with the mysterious message. Using the buttons, he marked the locations: Colorado, Denver, Atlanta, Chicago, Philadelphia. Explosions had clearly been reported in all these cities. 18 hours after the explosions, Robert put on a protective suit, climbed into a truck, and drove to a warehouse. He found tools for moving heavy equipment and entered a storage unit filled with military gear. He loaded everything into the truck and drove off. At the ranch, Bonnie worried that her brother, Stanley, still hadn't returned. Jake reassured her. Soon, Eric called Jake, confirming their father was safe. Once sure everyone was out of danger, Jake asked Eric to dig the people out of the mine. Meanwhile, underground, Heather distributed supplies, ensuring everyone had enough. Heather kept people calm to prevent panic. Suddenly, the ranch's basement door opened and Stanley entered, soaked. Bonnie rushed to hug him, but Jake stopped her. They needed to check for radioactivity. They called April, the city's chief doctor and Eric's wife, who advised giving Stanley iodine and rushing him to the clinic once the rain stopped. She warned that if he started vomiting, he wouldn't survive. Stanley, once conscious, shared shocking news. He saw several tanks heading toward Denver. The group was stunned. In the City Hall bunker, things calmed down and Johnston felt better. Jake called him to report the tanks. The mayor suspected it was the National Guard from Woodland on a rescue operation. Jake wanted to investigate, but his father warned him it was too dangerous. Still, Jake believed it was the only way to uncover the truth, and his father reluctantly agreed. Emily decided to join Jake, hoping to find her missing fiancé, Roger. Eric, meanwhile, feigned devotion to his wife in front of his family, which Mary observed. Mary later tried to confront Eric about his marriage as he'd claimed his relationship with his wife was failing, but Eric refused to discuss it, insisting they focus on survival. Once the rain stopped, Eric checked radiation levels. It was safe and people could leave shelters. Jake asked the police to take Stanley and Bonnie to the hospital. He then called Eric to help dig out the people from the mine. After drilling through the rubble, Jake, Eric, and other townsfolk helped everyone to safety. Skylar's friends checked on her, finding her playing cards with Dale. Her best friend teased Skylar, warning her to stay away from Dale because he was weird. Not wanting to appear foolish, Skylar left with her friends. At the hospital, Jake proposed a plan: send people in all directions for information. His mother, Gail, was skeptical, but Johnston sided with his son. Johnston gathered Gray, his mayoral rival, and others, while Jake dispatched teams for intel. Meanwhile, Eric tried to talk to Mary at the bar, but she ignored him, busy serving customers. Suddenly, a Chinese broadcast appeared on TV, stunning everyone and sparking panic that China might have attacked the U.S. Frustrated, Dale headed to Gracie's store, shocked to find the shelves almost empty. Gail walked in with a box of groceries. Residents had returned unneeded bunker supplies. Gracie worried it wasn't enough, explaining the expected shipment was delayed, and without electricity, food would spoil. Gail suggested cooking all remaining food to feed the townspeople, preventing waste. Gray packed a bag to search for supplies. Johnston stopped him, thanking him, but Gray seized the opportunity to undermine the mayor, blaming him for the alleged death due to poor shelter preparedness. Johnston dragged him into the office, punched him, and warned him not to divide the town during the crisis. The team set out. After an argument with Emily about Roger's uncertain fate, Jake headed south alone. A few miles from town on the highway, he found 2 crashed airplanes. After retrieving the black box, Jake returned to town. With his father and others, he listened to the recordings. In the background, news played that the plane Emily's fiancé was supposed to be on had safely landed in Kansas. Jake shared the news with Emily, who cried tears of joy. That evening, the townspeople celebrated their survival with a street barbecue, using remaining store supplies. Robert's wife asked if they could take the kids to join, but he insisted they weren't ready. He then locked himself in a room and began building barricades, clearly knowing more than the locals. At the party, Skylar ignored Dale, hanging out with friends. Later that night, Dale took a walk and unexpectedly found a train, the very one meant to deliver a new shipment of goods to Gracie. For the next few days, the people of Jericho had little to worry about. If you enjoyed the recap, please leave a like and subscribe, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.